Hey, everybody. I'm back from my hiatus. It was really great having family here. I'm ready to get back to Supernaturalist. And this is the podcast where we explore the folklore, mythology, creatures, and legends behind every episode of Supernatural. Now, today's episode is a special one because we're talking about one of my absolute favorite episodes in the entire series. Season 3, Episode 11. Mystery Spot. And if you've watched Supernatural, chances are you know exactly what I'm about to say. Heat of the moment. Just hearing those 4 words probably has Asia's song playing in your head right now. You're welcome. Now, on the surface, this episode feels like one of the funniest episodes the show ever produced. Dean dies in increasingly ridiculous ways. Sam gets more and more frustrated, and everything pretty much feels like a supernatural version of Groundhog Day. But underneath all the comedy lies one of the darkest stories Supernatural ever told. And at the center of it all is one of the show's greatest recurring characters, the Trickster. So let's dive in. Who or what is the Trickster? When the episode first aired, viewers believed the Trickster was exactly what his name suggested, a trickster spirit. And throughout mythology, tricksters appear in nearly every culture on Earth. They're shapeshifters, they're rule breakers, teachers, chaos agents. And unlike traditional villains, tricksters don't usually want world domination. They just want to prove a point, often in the most painful way imaginable. And sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're terrifying. Usually they're both. So what about tricksters around the world? Well, the writers of Supernatural borrowed from centuries of mythology when creating this character. In Norse mythology, Loki is perhaps the most famous trickster of them all. He constantly manipulates both gods and humans and creates problems just because he can. Sometimes he helps, though. More often, though, he doesn't. In Native American traditions, Coyote fills a similar role. Coyote teaches lessons through deception, mistakes, and chaos. He is clever, but really unpredictable. And in African folklore, it introduces us to Anansi, the spider, whose intelligence often wins over brute strength. And Greek mythology gives us Hermes, who literally stole Apollo's cattle on the very day he was born. So clearly, being a troublemaker has ancient roots. The important thing about tricksters is that they rarely teach through kindness. They teach through experience, painful experience. In this episode, Dean dies again and again and again. And one reason this episode became an instant fan favorite is its incredible balance between comedy and heartbreak. Dean's death becomes increasingly absurd. He's shot by accident. He's hit by a speeding car. He's crushed by a falling desk, straight out of Wile E. Coyote cartoon. He's electrocuted, chokes on breakfast. He gets mauled by a dog. Even an argument involving an axe somehow ends with Dean dying. Each death is shocking, then funny, then horrifying all over again. Because no matter how ridiculous the death becomes, Sam still has to watch his brother die every single time. Heat of the moment. The repetition of Asia's classic song has become legendary among Supernatural fans. The first few times it's funny. By the 50th time, it's torture. And that is exactly what the trickster intended. The audience experiences the same emotional progression Sam does. At first it's amusing, then confusing, and eventually it's unbearable. Brilliant storytelling, as always. And the real victim is Sam. While Dean dies over 100 times, Sam is actually the one being tortured. Each Tuesday strips away another piece of him. Eventually, Sam knows every word everyone is about to say. Every customer at the diner, every movement, every accident, every death. He's trapped in a world where nothing matters because tomorrow always resets, except his grief. His grief never resets. So what's the turning point? Well, eventually Sam notices something impossible. One customer in the diner orders a different syrup. Now that may not seem like much, but it's the first change. It's first noticed something's different. And that's when Sam realizes something or someone is controlling everything. He and Dean corner the seemingly ordinary pancake-loving customer, who actually reveals himself as the trickster. One of my favorite exchanges in this episode comes when Sam proudly announces they've killed one of his kind before. The trickster simply smiles and says, in true rich bait fashion, "No, you didn't, chuckleheads." It's one of those lines that completely changes everything we thought we knew. Then there's Wednesday. The trickster finally snaps his fingers. Tuesday ends, and Wednesday arrives. Sam thinks he's won. Dean is alive and everything is normal again. Until Dean is shot outside the motel. This time, nothing resets. No Asia, no alarm clock, no do-over. Dean is simply gone. 6 months without Dean. For me, this is where the episode stops being funny. And I think that's the same for everybody. The montage that follows is one of the most haunting sequences in the entire series. Sam becomes almost unrecognizable. Gone is the optimism of the younger brother. Gone are the jokes. Gone is the hope. He hunts alone. He ignores Bobby's calls. He stitches up his own wounds without flinching. His motel rooms become perfectly organized. His weapons are meticulously arranged, and everything about him is controlled and emotionless and mechanical. It's grief transformed into obsession. Jared Padalecki gives one of the strongest performances of the entire season during these scenes. You can actually see Sam become somebody that Dean would hardly recognize. So what's the lesson? Well, eventually Sam finds Bobby, or Bobby finds Sam, or what appears to be Bobby. Let's just put it that way. But the trickster has one final lesson. He wants Sam to understand something. Dean is his weakness. His enemies know it. His love for Dean can be manipulated, and it has been, repeatedly. His willingness to sacrifice everything for his brother is eventually going to destroy him. The trickster isn't trying to be cruel just for entertainment. He's trying to prepare Sam for what's coming. He says something incredibly important. This is what it will be like without Dean. It's actually a warning, and it's one that Sam refuses to accept. In the end, eventually the trickster ends this illusion, and Dean is alive. The motel room returns. Wednesday begins again. A Huey Lewis song is playing instead of Heat of the Moment, which Dean hates, and Sam hugs Dean tighter than he ever has before, but Dean doesn't really know why. We do. Sam has lived months without his brother. He knows exactly what that feels like, and he never wants to experience it again. The final shot of the unmade bed quietly reminds us, one day, Creature feature. Now let's talk about today's creature. The trickster. Unlike vampires or ghosts, tricksters aren't defined by physical abilities. Their greatest weapon is manipulation. Reality itself bends around them. Illusion becomes real. Time loops, alternate realities, false memories, shape-shifting, psychological warfare. Rather than simply killing people, they force people to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves. The trickster doesn't attack Sam physically, he attacks his heart. Now for fun facts and behind the scenes info. Heat of the Moment by Asia became permanently associated with the episode. Fans still immediately think of Mystery Spot whenever they hear that song. And for good reason. Jensen Ackles reportedly loved filming Dean's over-the-top deaths because each one became more ridiculous than the last. And the writers clearly had fun inventing increasingly outrageous ways to kill him. The falling death sequence was intentionally filmed like a classic Looney Tunes or Wile E. Coyote cartoon, which gives the episode a rare slapstick moment. You don't get those very often with Supernatural. And the episode is often ranked among the top 10 Supernatural episodes of all time. And for many fans, it's their number one favorite. What makes Mystery Spot so memorable isn't just the humor, it's the emotional whiplash. One moment you're laughing at Dean getting flattened by a desk. The next you're watching Sam slowly lose his will. Very few television episodes manage that balance. That's why Supernatural is so epic. Looking back now, the trickster's warnings become even more significant after later revelations about who he really is. And without spoiling future episodes for first-time viewers, let's just say this isn't the last time we'll see him, and there's far more to him than meets the eye. Now for my final thoughts. Every once in a while, a television episode comes along that perfectly captures everything a series does well. Comedy, horror, heartbreak, character development, mystery, and unforgettable dialogue. For me, Mystery Spot is that episode. It's hilarious. It's devastating. And of course, like all Supernatural episodes, it's brilliantly written, even after all these years. I still can't hear Heat of the Moment without thinking of this episode. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Supernaturalist. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share the podcast with your fellow supernatural friends. It really helps the channel grow, and I'd love hearing your thoughts on these episodes. I'd also like to know, where does Mystery Spot rank on your list of favorite supernatural episodes? Is it your favorite, or is there another episode that tops your list? For me, it's Scooby Natural, but my two favorite shows stuck together can't be beat. So let me know in the comments. Until next time, keep hunting the legends, keep questioning the myths, and remember, sometimes the greatest monsters don't hide in the dark. Sometimes they just keep hitting the snooze button. Carry on, wayward friends.